What's up everybody, this is Master Ian Gamer. We just got a brand new look at the kit and abilities for the upcoming new Overwatch 2 hero Ramattra, including footage of both his Omnic and Nemesis form, and even his crazy insane looking ultimate. So in this video, I'm going to run through the new gameplay footage we have and talk about all the new information we actually learn about Ramattra and his abilities. So first off, let's take a look at his default Omnic form and his primary fire, which is the Void Accelerator. Now, based off of the footage we can see here and the commentary that accompanied this footage, his primary fire fires out a stream of nanites that deals steady damage and has a slow travel speed, but no damage fall off. So as we can see here from this footage, no matter how far away the target is, they take the same amount of damage, but there is a travel time for the nanites to actually reach the target and deal the damage. Furthermore, this ability is capable of headshotting enemy targets, and in the commentary for this video, they mentioned that it deals bonus damage on headshots. Now, I think that just means that deals basic crit damage the same way most ranged weapons do, as opposed to giving like additional damage dealt in the same way as Kiriko's kunai. So overall, this does actually seem to be a bit of a unique weapon in that the way it fires out in just a stream of nanites is very similar to a beam weapon like what Zarya or Symmetra has, but the fact that it's technically projectiles and can deal critical damage by hitting someone's head hitbox means that it's almost like a hybrid of a beam and a projectile weapon. Now, we don't know what exactly sort of interactions this will have with abilities like D.Va's Defense Matrix. I'm assuming that Defense Matrix will be able to eat these projectiles and thus block their damage, but this is another thing which we don't clearly have specified yet at this point. We'll have to probably wait until we can actually get in game with him and play test some of these abilities, but nonetheless, it does seem like he has a pretty unique primary fire in that regard. Moving on to his alternate fire, or first ability, while in Omnic form, he has Void Barrier. Now, as we can see from the footage here, the barrier is created at a targeted location, which seems to function very similar to Mei's Ice Wall, where you just get a sort of like blueprint type thing showing up where it's going to appear, and then when you activate the ability, it just appears there, as opposed to Orisa's old barrier, which you actually sort of had to fire out and predict where it was going to land. This one, you just pick a spot and boom, barrier is there. Now, it was also mentioned in this gameplay showcase that the barrier has a ton of health, and as we can see from some of the footage, it appears to spawn with 1000 HP. So technically that's a little bit weaker than Reinhardt's barrier, but still fits within the realm of what we would expect from a barrier type ability. Additionally, it was also mentioned that this barrier has a short uptime. We weren't given any specific numbers for it, and we unfortunately don't get to see in the footage just how long it can last if it's not destroyed by the enemy, but I'm guessing it's going to be somewhere in the realm of like maybe 5 seconds, since we can also see that the ability itself has a total cooldown of 15 seconds, which starts at the time of you activating it. Now, in the commentary for this video, it was mentioned that the intent for this barrier is that it's something you use to throw down real quickly to close a distance between yourself and the enemy, which of course plays right in hand with his alternate form, Nemesis Form, which we'll be getting onto in just a moment, and thus it's more for sort of situational type protection as opposed to a character like Reinhardt, whose barrier is going to probably have a bit more uptime. It's of course mobile with Reinhardt himself, so we can sort of reposition it, whereas Ramattra's Void Barrier is something you just put in a spot and then it stays there, again, much more similar to Mei's Ice Wall. Now, moving on to Ramattra's secondary form, he has Nemesis Form. This form is activated as one of his abilities and appears to have a total uptime of 8 seconds. So this isn't like a permanent form you can transform into, it has a limited duration, and once that timer runs out, you're just going to be booted back into Omnic form. So in a lot of ways, it's very similar to Bastion's Sentry form in a sense, especially the Overwatch 2 version of Bastion where it's on a limited cooldown. But of course for Ramattra, there's a bunch of bonus things that he gets with this Nemesis form, which I'll dig into now, starting with the 150 extra armor he gains for the duration of Nemesis form. This is up from his default 450 HP, and is best thought of in the same sense as Winston's Primal Rage, where this isn't over health. It's not like he's being over healed in the same way Orisa is a little bit when she uses Fortify. This is a base health pool buff that just adds 150 armor to his base health pool, which lasts then for for the duration of him being in Nemesis Form. Furthermore, Nemesis Form can be cancelled by using the same ability button used to initiate it, so again, very much like Bastion. And also we know from the article published alongside the initial gameplay trailer for Ramattra that this ability has a cooldown of 8 seconds, meaning that theoretically the ability could have just as much uptime as it does downtime, but I'm willing to bet the bulk of your time will be spent in Omnic Form, since that's sort of his default. While in Nemesis Form though, Ramattra does get a brand new set of abilities, starting with a new primary fire, Pummel. Now Pummel is where he just throws out his fists, dealing pretty typical looking punches, but the most interesting element of them is the shockwave which can be fired out, which as we can see here from the footage, shoots a pretty good distance away from where his fist actually reaches, and furthermore can pierce through enemies. We see here it passing through both a Reinhardt barrier as well as all the heroes lined up, so this is definitely an ability that's going to be strong when enemies are all clustered together in a tight group, because then you'll be able to hit multiple targets at once. Now some other little things about the Pummel ability, it seems to do somewhere in the realm of 50 damage per punch and shockwave, just based on how long it takes to kill the Ashe and Kiriko in this footage here. Also another thing to note, unlike the punches Winston deals while in Primal Rage, the punches from Pummel don't seem to have any knockback on them. We can see as Ramattra is punching pretty much point blank at the Reinhardt here, that Reinhardt isn't moving at all. So it seems like Pummel strictly deals damage in a sort of energy shockwave without any sort of knockback tied to it. Now, moving on to Ramattra's secondary Nemesis Form ability, he has Block. Block is a frontal defensive ability where Ramattra lifts up his arms to defend himself and thus takes reduced damage from frontal targets. Using this ability slows his movement for the duration of it being active, and on top of that has no cooldown. What this means is that him being able to raise up his arms and defend himself is very much akin to Reinhardt or Brigitta's barriers, where he can sort of just bring them up or down at will. So he can sort of run in at normal speed, quickly pull up his arms to block himself, and then drop his arms again to keep moving after the damage has stopped, and then almost immediately afterwards, bring his arms right back up. It seems like this is going to give him quite a bit of versatility in being able to block specific damage sources as he's moving around in Nemesis Form, whereas a character like Doomfist, who has his similar power block ability, can only use it once before then having to wait for its cooldown. Ramattra's next ability is Ravenous Vortex. Now, Ravenous Vortex is a bit unique from his other abilities in that it can be used when either in Omnic or Nemesis Form, and the way this works is that he throws out an orb of nanites at range, which then creates a field that deals damage to enemies, slows them, and pulls down enemies that are airborne. In a lot of ways, it's like Sojourn's Disruptor Shot with the added aspect of grounding aerial enemies, and the ability's duration appears to be roughly 3 seconds, just based off the footage we can see here, and we don't really get a good estimate for how much damage exactly it deals, unfortunately, but it seems to not deal too much damage as we don't really see it killing any of the targets trapped in it. Also, the ability has a cooldown of 12 seconds, which starts at the time of activation. Now, this ability I still think is perhaps going to be the most fun to play around with and experiment. The fact that the ability seems to have a fairly short duration makes me really curious to see how effective it'll be with actually keeping airborne targets grounded. Like, sure, if you're playing Echo or Pharah, you're going to get sucked down as soon as the ability activates, but you'll only be down on the ground for a couple seconds by the looks of things, which I guess is enough time for Ramattra and his teammates to sort of take advantage of the situation and probably take them out, but overall it does seem like a pretty short-term ability, so I imagine that they designed it to be a very impactful effect in that instant it's used, as opposed to a long-term area denial type ability. And moving on now to his final ability, his ultimate, Ramattra has Annihilation. Now, Annihilation is a pretty intense looking ultimate, and one which sounds on paper like it could potentially be a little broken, especially when paired with certain other heroes. But the way Annihilation works is that it automatically forces Ramattra into Nemesis Form, regardless of which form he's in when he activates it, and then it generates a wide swarm of nanites that surround him and both both deals damage to enemies caught within it, as well as reducing those enemies' damage output by 50%. Now, if this didn't seem intense enough, the duration of this ability is directly tied to whether or not there are enemies in the area of this ability's effect. And for as long as there's at least one enemy taking damage from this ultimate within the field, the timer, which limits the ult's duration, is paused, meaning that he can theoretically remain in his Annihilation ultimate and Nemesis form indefinitely as long as the enemy doesn't die. As I said, on paper, this sounds pretty crazy, but I imagine in practice, there's probably going to be a number of ways to sort of work around it. For one thing, an enemy team could just sort of scatter and split up, since based on the footage we see here, it doesn't look like it does a tremendous amount of damage to the enemy, certainly more than his Ravenous Vortex deals, but this probably isn't going to be necessarily a kill field sort of ability where you use it to just instantly wipe the enemy team like a Junkrat Riptire might. This is more of a crowd control, area control type ability, where you run in there and as long as you're dealing damage, the enemy has to deal with the fact that you're constantly dealing damage. It's certainly an ultimate ability which I'm really excited to get to play around with and really see just how useful it is and what sort of strategies might emerge from it, but I will say I'm already starting to suspect there might be some crazy hero combinations that could work with this. Specifically, I'm thinking of a character like Lucio giving Ramattra a speed boost so that he can just literally chase down anyone on the enemy team and just constantly deal damage to them, because the counter to this ultimate seems to be to want to just escape the field, but if the Ramattra is getting speed boosted by Lucio or a Kiriko ult or something, it might be a little difficult to get away. So it's probably going to be pretty scary to go up against this ultimate. I think Ramattra in general is probably going to be a pretty scary hero to face off against, but certainly in terms of playing the hero himself, I think there's probably a lot of fun to be had here. Once again, unfortunately, we don't get any specific numbers for the duration of this ultimate, minus whatever bonus duration it might get from dealing damage to enemies. And also, we don't know the exact damage numbers. We just, based off the footage we can see here, it does seem decently capable of killing squishy targets on its own, given enough time. But as I mentioned, I'm not expecting this to be an ability you run in there and use to just outright kill the enemy team. It's more of a crowd control, area denial type thing. That does it though for all the abilities and gameplay showcase we've gotten today for the new upcoming tank hero Ramattra. Definitely let me know your thoughts on this hero in the comments down below. Are you excited to get to play him now that we've gotten another sneak peek at his in-game kit and abilities? Or maybe you're a little worried about just how strong he'll be. But regardless of how you feel, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe, follow me on Twitter, hit up that bell icon, and come join my Discord server to hang out and never miss any of my future Overwatch 2 news and content. And special thanks to my YouTube channel members who help make these videos possible. If you'd like to join them to earn some cool rewards, then just hit that join button down below. And otherwise, this is Master Ian Gamer signing off, and until next time, have a great day.